record button, which I still feel bad about. Let's see if this is on. We are live. We are here. A week 11 venting session. Tasty with some family in the background. Yanni, what's going on? Not what you wanted from the Buffalo Bills today. Probably not what we all wanted collectively from a betting basis. This is my roughest Sunday of the NFL season. Yanni, how you feeling?
Let's just say I should have stayed in bed today.
And Tasty, I know you're on the other side of that one, that it never feels good to have a win when your friend gets a loss, and that's Yanni, the Bills, and Tasty, the Vikings. But the Vikings, all of a sudden, man, and probably not all of a sudden, they should start getting their due. They only got one loss, bro.
Yeah, no, I mean, in some ways it is
Looking
all of a
good,
sudden
Tasty.
am I muted? Can you hear me?
You're good.
Okay.
No, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, I know the Bills are down some defenders and stuff, but I was super encouraged by what I saw from the Vikings today, even still. They were more resilient than they have been. Their defense put up some resistance, which in previous weeks I felt like a lot of times they didn't. So I was ready to walk away from this game going, hey, we lost. I knew that was going to happen, but I'm encouraged by what I saw. So to me, that game was kind of a toss-up. There was so much crazy stuff that happened that it's hard to be like, oh, yeah, really took that win. But I think just moving forward, it makes me start to feel like the Vikings have a chance against good teams. I still don't think they're one of the best teams, but it makes me feel like they've got a shot.
Definitely makes me feel like that they have a shot. I mean, they're at one loss right now. Do I think that they catch the Eagles? Who knows? I mean, you just really don't know. In this game, Yanni, takeaways from you, other than that you've got the Dolphins, you've got the Jets, I guess, breathing down your neck now. This high level could reshape the AFC playoff picture. For my money, I still think that the Bills end up with a 1 seed, but things are wide open right now, Yanni.
They are. And technically, the Dolphins and Jets aren't breathing down their neck. It's the other way around. The Bills are actually in third place now, technically, because they lost head-to-head to Miami and the Jets. So, I would say this big picture, I'm not overly panicked for a couple reasons. Number one, their schedule's been pretty brutal here, and down the stretch, they have a little bit of a softer schedule than they've had. Now they still have the Dolphins and the Jets again, but they get them at home this time. And I think the bigger thing is they need to get some guys healthy. And look, I'm not taking anything away from the Vikings because they earned that win. I mean, Jefferson was absolutely unstoppable. And they made the plays they needed to make. I mean, they converted 2 4th and longs. They converted a 3rd and long, when they needed to. And yes, I do feel a little bit. I'm going to do a little sour grapes and say that if Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are in that game, some of that stuff doesn't happen. But the bottom line is they weren't. And in the NFL, people are injured all the time. And, you've got to find ways. At the end of the day, the Bills should have won that game. Now, Tasty's exactly right. I think Minnesota proved that they can go toe-to-toe, with anyone there in the league. So, I think, again, you could look and say both of those teams could have and should have won the game 2 or 3 times there at the end there. And it was like neither team wanted to kind of get it done. And obviously the Vikings made basically one bigger play. And that's kind of what decided the game there. But, we talked, well, actually, I was going to say we talked about it on your pod, but it never got played. And that was this.
Technically, we talked about it, but nobody else heard it except for the 3 of us. Because this dumbass forgot to hit the record button. But
we did talk about this though. And I said, if Allen doesn't play, there's no chance the Bills win that game. And I stand by that. I think if Keenum plays that game, the Vikings win that game and it's never in question. And Allen's going to take a lot of grief. First of all, you can't drop the ball on the goal line. I mean, obviously that goes without saying. He's going to take some heat for that. The interception in overtime, inexcusable. It's 2nd down. You're running the ball easily. Why you would throw that pass, why you wouldn't check it down in that situation. I mean, that's on Allen. But I'll say this, that's the only thing, in my opinion, that's on Allen in that game. The fourth down interception, it's fourth down. He's trying to make a play. The fumble in the end zone, bad snap, whatever. He made one bad play in that game, in my opinion, and that was that interception in overtime that ultimately sealed it for Minnesota. But we talked about it on your pod that we didn't talk about, and that was my concern was, even if Allen played, and I said it exactly, I said, you're lining Justin Jefferson up against, I mean, missing their starting secondary, all four of them. What does that look like? And look, Jefferson, and I'll say this in fairness, there were a couple of those plays where they actually had him covered fairly well. And the guy just, I mean, he just makes plays. You know, he goes up, he gets it. He can make catches in traffic. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's not like he was just breaking free and wide open and making plays. He's just ridiculously good, and you got to give Cousins credit for putting the ball on him, or, giving him a chance to make it there. So, again, we could probably unpack this game for an hour, because that game was a pretty entertaining game. And I think there's a ton of X and O stuff. There's a ton of coaching stuff in that game, like why you don't kick a field goal on 4th and 2 or 3 there. I didn't understand what the Bills are doing there. But anyways, at the end of the day, I do think the Bills are going to be okay if they get some guys back. Their schedule lightens up a little bit. And I do think in the NFC, I mean, I think you got to say Minnesota is right there. I mean, I think they proved that they can go toe to toe, whether it's San Francisco, whether it's your Eagles. I think they can play with anybody.
I agree. And I'm getting connection unstable issues. So if this sounded like it, then that's my apologies. We are finally being recorded though. But yeah, no, there were a lot of things that happened in this game that I think that we can label it as the game of the year. Yards per play, 6.1 yards per play for the Vikings, 6.8 for the Bills. Yanni, to your point, not everything can go on Josh Allen. Yeah, you can't put the ball down. That turnover, that pick was a little bit ugly. Also, you can't throw that ball, but look, he just does so much that if you're going to take the bad with the good, there's a lot more good that comes with a player like Allen. And I'm going to be curious to see the MVP odds on Allen. They were at plus 350 more today. I know what they become. I hit plus 350 for a little bit. If I could get like a 4.5 or a 5-1 at some point, we'll see. Tasty, what else grabbed your attention from today? It could be anything. It could be Jeff Saturday getting a win and the Raiders falling flat on their face again. I'm sorry to Arroyo, but what stuck out to you, Tasty?
Man, there was a lot. I mean, that definitely was one. I mean, that was one of my picks today was, hey, at least both legs lost. I had the Raiders and the Cowboys down to -0.5 each. I thought I just want to swear right now, man. Like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, I messaged you guys in that Colts game when they let Matt Ryan bust off like a 40-yard run.
Please swear.
I mean, Matt Ryan's about as fast as I am. Like, I just don't understand how they're as bad as they are. They shouldn't be that terrible, but they're horrendous. And the Cowboys just, like, man, their defense didn't really show up today. So there was a lot. I mean, and then the other big thing for Yanni's sake is his favorite player in the league went off again. Justin Fields. Honestly, he's looking to me like a younger Russell Wilson in a way, where he runs around behind the line so much, where and then he finds people who are wide open because he's given them 47 seconds to get open by running around. So that was interesting to me too.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like
D really good call. Justin Fields all of a sudden, and Yanni's new favorite player, right?
Well, I mean, it looks like D might be having some connection issues there.
If you can't hear me,
Yeah, I'll jump in. There wasn't much I got right this week. It was a pretty shitty week overall on my end. But one thing I did have is I had Fields as my daily fantasy player of the week, and he didn't disappoint. And I think that we talked about this 2 weeks ago that, I don't know that he's the guy still. I really don't. I mean, people are going to say, what are you, crazy? Did you watch him? I mean, let's put it in perspective. They were playing the Lions, whatever, but he is figuring it out a little bit. And I think more than that, the coaching staff is figuring it out a little bit. And I think they're putting him in position to where he can make plays, and he's proving that he can. Now, is he there yet? I don't know. But I think if you're a Bears fan, you're at least encouraged that the guy who looked like a total, at least in my opinion, a total bust, now has at least shown some flashes the last couple weeks of being the guy they thought he was when he was drafted. So it'll be interesting to see the Bears the rest of the way out to see if he progresses and, if this team can win. I think they're, if they can put up some points and kind of rebuild that defense, who knows?
Looks like we're down to, maybe he's back now. D's having some,
yeah. So who knows?
Can you hear us now, D?
If I'm still being recorded or live.
Looks like we got some technical difficulties.
I can't hear a damn
here.
thing. I'm not too.
I think we're losing them. Oh, now you're on mute, Tasty.
Sorry about that. I just said I was trying to message him to let him know that he was cutting in and out. So,
I can't hear a damn thing, guys.
Our stream's going about as well as my NFL Sunday.
Oh my gosh, it's just what a day, right? What a day. Holy crap.
Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting day, I think. It looks like maybe D's going to try to log out and come back in.
Maybe go out and back in. We'll see how it works.
Yeah. I think, the other interesting game to me was that Dallas and Green Bay game. And look, obviously sharp money was on Green Bay. We talked about it and they know what they're doing. I still think Dallas is a far superior team, although you got to feel good if you're Green Bay. You finally got a wide receiver to kind of break out and be that guy. Watson had an amazing game today, 3 touchdowns, getting open. I think that Dallas defense, that secondary really kind of laid an egg there. And I think, there was some suspect play calling by Dallas. I feel like they should have just pounded the rock a little bit more. I mean, that interception that Dak threw in the first quarter. I mean, if you go up 14-0 early, the entire feel of that game can change. But you're up 7-0, you're inside their 10-yard line, and you throw a pick. Like, you can't do that if you're Dak Prescott. I mean, that can't happen. That changed the whole trajectory, even though Dallas got ahead. And one other thing I will say that I feel like I'm talking a lot of sour grapes here, but the officiating in that Dallas and Green Bay game was not good. And in overtime, I thought Dallas got robbed on 2 of those calls. I thought that holding call on the long run they had was complete bogus. I mean, that yeah. I mean, that was
Agreed.
Every single play of the game. You don't call it until overtime. Come on. You can't do that. And say what you want. The rule is the rule. He hit him well before the ball got to him. And to me, that's pass interference 100 times out of 100. So say what you want about that. I'm not saying that's why Dallas lost the game. I mean, they should have had it in hand, but a lot of stuff today that I think, again, it's my frustration boiling over from just a crap day of stuff all over in the NFL. But I think, you've got to beef if you're Dallas with that. But I will say too, what did you think about McCarthy going for it on 4th and whatever that was, 5 or 6 there in
4th and 4, wasn't it?
Yeah,
at the very
4th and
end?
4, yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised, man. I forget where exactly were they on the field, because I had like one eye on that, and then I was with family stuff too. Like, where were they?
They were on Green Bay's like 37, I think, maybe something like that.
Yeah, so it's a long field goal. It's probably because it's that in between, right? Of, do I want to kick a 53-yard field goal? I'm probably not going to punt. But man, it feels like you gotta. I don't know. Maybe that's that in retrospect thing. Because if they get it and then they go get, I do think those overtime rules do push you toward wanting to try to go get that touchdown, though, too, right?
Absolutely.
Because you can end the game. So I guess, like, I can't be too mad about it. Like, it sucks because it didn't work. And honestly, if it was more like a 30-yard field goal, I think I'd be like, man, you got to just take the points and hope your defense can hold them. But I don't know. From that far away, I could see what he was thinking, I guess.
No, I agree. I had no problem with the call, and again, and for whatever it's worth, it should have been pass interference anyway, or the play before should have been pass interference. But yeah, I had no problem with that either. I think it was a gutsy call, but I think it was the right call. It just didn't work out for them. And again, you got to give credit to Green Bay. I buried them a week ago and said they're done. And I fully expected them to lose this game, even at home. I'll tell you, as we look ahead, and maybe it's a good segue because I know Sunday Night Football is starting. We probably want to, get this wrapped up. But it looks like Green Bay is a slight favorite at home next week against Tennessee. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, man. So I'm really struggling here because I feel like part of what we saw today is that the NFL is still a league where almost any team can win almost any given week. And so it's like going into this game, we've got a large sample size of Green Bay not being very good, right? And they did play at home today, so that probably helps them some. Rodgers looked a little bit better. Watson looked pretty good. Aaron Jones is a problem, but we've known that. We've felt like Dallas was we've said top 4 or 5 in the NFC, I think. I mean, I've felt that way. Good offense, good defense. And it felt like the defense just didn't really show up today. So I don't know that I want to take, this is, I think, where you can get into trouble betting even, is like, oh, there's one game that looks different than the rest of the season. And now I'm going to swing all the way the other way and be like, oh, Green Bay's back. I mean, you're going to see that on ESPN all week probably, right? Aaron Rodgers is back. The Packers are back. Can they win the NFC North? And I think they're probably not as bad as some of the games that we've seen this season. But I just think they're probably not as good as this game either. And I think Tennessee is a solid team all around. I think they're better. They're even better running the ball than Dallas, probably, though Tony Pollard had plenty of success. So I think it probably is a low-scoring game, and I think it's probably a close game. I don't think Tennessee is phenomenal either. Man, I actually looked at that line and thought about jumping on Tennessee, but I feel like it's a close game. What do you think about it?
I echo what you say. I think, too, that I think there will be some overreaction to Green Bay. So that line could fall in Tennessee's favor if you like the Titans. I'll be honest with you. I think you're right. I think it probably ends up being a close game. So I think if you get Tennessee at 2, you can tease them up to 8 in that game. And I'd be surprised if they get blown out. I mean, look, you got to give Tennessee credit. And I realize they beat a Broncos team that isn't that great, isn't playing well, but they went into that game missing basically 4 of their top 5 defensive players and still found a way to shut Denver down, still did enough on offense, even without Derrick Henry having a huge game, found a way to win, which is kind of what Tennessee does. And I have a feeling going in next week, that's what it's going to be. They're going to find a way to grind it out, and they're either going to win or it's going to be a close game, hence the spread there. So again, I think if they're at a +2 and you can tease them up to a +8, that would be really appealing to me, at least.
Yeah, I agree. D, welcome back.
Hopefully you guys have me back. If you have me back at all, great. Yeah, hopefully. Apparently, according to my wife, the internet completely died. So I think it's a combination of just my computer, piece of shit, the NFL being a piece of shit, the internet's a piece of shit. Just everything's a huge piece of shit right now. But thank you guys for carrying this on. And I'm bragging right now, but it sounds like that you guys might have picked off some value with the Titans next week. I agree. This sort of Titans overachieving right now is not taking the NFL by storm, but they sort of seem like a team that's just going to hang around. And all of a sudden, maybe we'll be screwing around and seeing the Titans in like round 2 of the playoffs. And then we're saying, okay, maybe we shouldn't have written this team off. Tasty, if you can hear me, other things that are catching your eye in terms of line openers for next weekend.
Yeah, so I actually just was looking
you
at
might
this.
Not hear me.
Can you hear me? I can hear you. Yanni, can you hear me? Yeah, okay.
I can hear you. I think it's
all right. Yeah, I was looking like 10 minutes before we jumped on. I mean, I was interested in the Chicago-Atlanta over. Neither of those teams plays a lot of defense, but have both been decent offensively. There might be a 48.5 out there, which I like if there is. That's at 50. There's also all the way up to 50 now. So that was one that caught my eye a little bit. And then, I I honestly, I didn't have any big ones where I was like, oh man, this is a great one. It is interesting that Minnesota is getting points at home against Dallas. It's not shocking to me because I think Dallas certainly could bounce back. And like we were just talking about, I don't want to overreact to 1 week. But especially Minnesota being at home, it's interesting to me that they're getting points.
I think I'll jump in. I don't know if Deacon, if he's frozen or not, but I think that, you know, if you're talking about teasing up Tennessee, to me, that Vikings is an automatic tease up. So what have they done all year? They played 1-score games, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting them at home at over a score or 1 score. If you're getting them at +8 right now, to me, that's an automatic tease because I feel like it's probably a coin flip game as far as who wins the game. But I don't see either of these teams necessarily blowing the other one out. I think if anything, Minnesota would be more likely to blow Dallas out in this game, although I don't think that's going to happen. I think that a +8 for Minnesota at home, I'll take that all day long because again, I feel like if the Cowboys win this game, it's a 3 or 4 point win.
Yeah, you're right about the close games for Minnesota. And it's funny because it doesn't even matter who they play. It could be like one of the best teams or one of the worst teams. They just find a way to play. And usually it's coming back at the end too. Being down and then coming back seems to be what they do, which is going to run out at some point. But
yeah, I mean, you would think, but I joked when I text, I said, you know, they're living right. They're doing something right. Cause I mean, they're figuring out ways to get things done. And I mean, I think it's a little bit accredited, but when we see teams make runs in the playoffs, it's usually a combination of them being good, but also being lucky. And there's no shame in that. And I think that's what we're seeing with them. They're a very good team. They're also getting a lot of bounces and things happening and, you know, whatever on that, but that's a good combination to have. And I think, again, you know, they're going to be at home in this game. I think they match up fairly well with Dallas. I know Dallas is kind of getting their offense going a little bit, getting Dalton Schultz back, and, you know, CeeDee Lamb had a big game today. But I think that, you know, they can kind of go toe for toe because I think what we're seeing, and Dallas has some injuries in their secondary. You see what Justin Jefferson can do. You can see Hawkinson. And I know he didn't have a huge game today, but he caught 7 passes. So, I mean, you know, he's a reliable chain mover on third down. We talked about him being kind of a key to that offense. The one thing I'd like to see from your Vikings, and the numbers are skewed if you look at the box score. Dalvin Cook broke a long touchdown.
Yep.
And you know, hey, they all count. No, I mean, good run, good touchdown, whatever. But you take that out and he really didn't do anything at all. And we've seen that a little bit this year with it's been a little boom or bust. If he doesn't get if he doesn't break a long one, there's a lot of these hit at the line of scrimmage, 2-yard gains, 3-yard gains. And I feel like when you've got weapons like that, Cook's got to be able to make more things happen in that running game. So, I'll tell you what, Daryl Johnson made a really good call on the broadcast. I don't know if you heard it, but when when they stuffed the Vikings early in the game, not at the end at the goal line, but early, they had 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and they threw it both times, once to KJ Osborne, and I can't remember who the other one they tried to go to was. And Daryl Johnson was like, look, it's less than a yard. He's like, you've got Cook, you've got Madison. He's like, why, you'd think at least with one of those. But I think it speaks to a little bit of the lack of confidence that they have right now in that running game. And I feel like for them to truly make a run, they're going to have to make that running game a legitimate threat, which I think they can do. I mean, Cook's good enough to do it. I think, again, they have the scheme to be able to do it, but I think they have to really make a concerted effort to do that. And I don't know, maybe next week's not the week to try that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I actually felt like Madison ran harder than Dalvin Cook some of the time. He broke a few tackles, and then Dalvin Cook actually broke off a few good runs in overtime to start out that overtime.
He did. Yep.
He hit 3 or 4 good runs, and it's like, to your point, though, it's like, where has that been mixed in here when he's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage a lot of the time, first contact? So, well,
and if in that game, and you and I watched it, I mean, literally Leslie Frazier, and I have big beef with the Bills defensive coordinator. I have big beef with him, but I'll tell you what, he would not get out of his too high shell to do for anything. And I mean, I get it. Jefferson's on it. I understand, the philosophy, but he does that every week. And I think that if I'm the Vikings and I'm looking at that, I'm handing the ball off every freaking play until he starts bringing a safety into the box there. And again, It worked out for him because Jefferson's a freak and was able to make plays in double coverage and make catches that, most people can't make and whatever. But I don't know. Again, I feel like for them to make a sustained run, the run has to be as big of a threat as Justin Jefferson is. And right now, I feel like if you're playing defense against the Vikings, you're taking Jefferson away. You're taking these receiving weapons away. Cook has to make you pay. I mean, he just has to moving forward.
Agreed.
But yeah.
Yeah, man. Hey, let me ask you about one other game that is just as interesting to me. So the Jets are going into New England off their bye, getting 4 points. And obviously New England has been a thorn in the side of the Jets forever. If memory serves, even earlier this year, they had New England on the ropes and then got beat. I don't remember how much they got beat by, but they ended up losing that game at home, and now they're going away. But the Jets seem to be on an upward trajectory to me, where the Patriots, I'm not sure. Like, they feel okay to me, but I don't feel like there's a lot of upside. So what are your thoughts on the Jets and the Patriots?
It's going to be one of, I think, the most intriguing games of next weekend because, really what we're trying to see is which one of these teams is for real, or are either of these teams for real? Because I think there's still some questions with both of them there. I'll tell you, at first glance, I love getting the Jets over a field goal because I feel like the Jets are a better overall team than the Patriots are. But after kind of sitting on it for a minute, I started going through, and I'm not sure that I like the Jets with those 4 points now. I think if I had to, if you said bet it right now, I would take the 4 points. But I don't love it because I feel like there's a couple things. You touched on one. New England kind of owns them. But the other thing is New England like sneakily plays these games where they end up winning by 17 points. And it's like, I think you think about, and this was the game that burned me, is when they were playing Justin Fields, which was kind of his, I guess, coming out party there. But you look at what Belichick does with some of these mistake-prone younger quarterbacks, and you wonder, is Zach Wilson going to have a performance like Ellinger did, a week ago with New England there, where they just can't get anything going offensively? I think the Jets defense can absolutely go, they can slow down New England's offense, because I think that Jets defense is underrated. I think they're actually really, really good. But I don't know. So, I mean, to me, that's a really tough one to call. Very interested to watch it, though. Very interested to see what happens in that game.
Yeah, man, I am too. I actually feel fairly high on the Jets if they can manage Zach Wilson. So we'll see. We'll see where that goes. Anything else that sticks out to you before we wrap it up?
I'm just going to give you one last quick one. You touched on the total. I mean, I think, and I hate to say it, I mean, the Bears are getting over a field goal against that Atlanta team. I just don't think they've kind of shown their true colors now of who they really are. I don't know if I'm going to bet it because, first of all, Atlanta is at home. And I don't know that I fully trust Fields in that offense at this point yet. But to me, I would have that at a -2.5, not a -3.5. So you're over the key number. That's the one thing I would say about that game.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I was actually thinking, so I don't think there's any way I would bet Atlanta giving that many points. No. However, I think Chicago is the kind of team Atlanta can beat, because if Atlanta faces a good defense, they're screwed. Like, their offense just isn't good enough. And so I think the Bears being not a very good defense, that's where I could potentially see that game being high scoring. I mean, I could see Atlanta getting blown up too. I agree with you. They're not a very good team, but I think if they are going to win games, it's teams like Chicago where they have a chance. So I could see it being close. So, another one where Chicago, or maybe that's another potential teaser leg too, getting them up over 10 points potentially.
Sure. And I think, you start looking, and I think there's potential teasers galore already next week as you kind of look at it there. And I mean, even some unconventional ones, if you wanted to take, for example, Baltimore down to -6.5 at home against the Panthers. I mean, I can't see the Panthers putting up a fight in that game. But I mean, honestly, between your Vikings, between the Titans, I think you could look at, it looks like there's still some 8.5s out there with the Eagles that you get down to -2.5 against the Colts.
Love that.
I think that's appealing. So, I mean, there are a lot of games out there, and I'll tell you one, and look, they looked awful today, but Denver's at home -2.5 against the Raiders. All right. Denver's going to lock Devontae Adams up in that game. So unless Josh Jacobs rushes for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game, I don't see the Raiders doing anything in that game. I think that team is cooked. I think they've already packed it in for McDaniels on that team there. I think at home, Denver finds a way to win that game by a field goal. So, those are a couple others that I have my eye on. And again, I hate to I hate to be here talking about bad teams like the Bears and Denver and whatever, but I mean, I think you look at those numbers. I mean, my guess is that Denver line is going to go to -3 because people are going to see what the Raiders did today. And I don't know. I think if you're going to get in on Denver, do it now. And I think they get it done.
Yep. All right, man. Well, time to go. Maybe I can actually win a bet if San Francisco can win this game tonight. I have a 3-team teaser, and so given that Chargers are probably going to win by 20, the way things are going.
That's the way today's been. I've got him in a teaser as well, so We'll see how it goes. But good luck, man. I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
All right, sounds good. See you, man.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.